Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a paradigm-shifting text, but we're looking at it through a completely different lens. The source material we're analyzing reframes the Quran not as ancient history, but as an executable physical system, an eternal memory tesseract. We are talking about literal operational physics here. So let's break down exactly how this master engine actually works.
Okay, let's kick things off with a core coordinate that absolutely anchors this entire explainer. And your Lord is not forgetful. According to the source material, this isn't just some comforting theological sentiment. It's literally the foundational law of conservation for this entire system. It establishes that information, or memory, is the eternal baseline of reality. Physical forms, they might collapse. But the data, the memory, it is perfectly conserved. It's never lost.
So what if this text isn't a collection of historical stories at all? What if it's a living framework? That is the provocative thesis we're exploring today. The author argues that explicit wording in the text establishes precise operational coordinates. It's not some external metaphor looking backward in time, it's a computational matrix operating right now. Reading it is basically about executing a code that aligns physical and informational reality.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be moving through 5 steps: the memory tesseract, the dual reality fields, the 2-3-7 framework, the 1912 Centromere lock, and finally, the final ring protocol. Let's just jump right in.
All right, part 1, the Eternal Memory Tesseract.
To really grasp this macro view, we kind of have to let go of reading left to right or front to back. The source asserts that explicit wording establishes precise coordinates for an interlocking chainmail of physical and spiritual laws. It's a topological inspiration where the framework executes without deviation. Every single verse is a ring, and these rings interlock to form an active operating system that processes reality itself.
Moving on to part 2, the dual reality fields.
So how does this system actually organize existence? Well, it breaks down into 2 fundamental reality fields. On one side, we have the measurable physical world, the D10 field. Think of D10 as the driver. It's mass, physics, biology, the particle state, growing downward like roots. On the flip side, we have the informational memory world, the I9 field. This is the witness. It's memory, the wave state, reaching upward like light. Now here's the absolute crucial takeaway. D10 and I9 are not opposing armies fighting for dominance. They are phase-conjugate currents, folding through the exact same rings. They are 2 ends of the same breath. D10 measures possibilities into physical objects, while I9 remembers the continuous pattern across all these cycles. Measurement without meaning is just noise, right? And meaning without manifestation is just unexpressed potential. They fundamentally need each other.
Let's step into part 3, the 2-3-7 framework engine.
Now that we have our fields, we need to map the engine that dictates how they actually interact. This 2-3-7 sequence is the operational physics of the universe. First, there's the split, the number 2, where potential divides into those D10 and I9 fields. Then, the number 3 is the tree or the buffer, basically a region where life and death negotiate. Next, we fold back into duality at 2. And finally, 7 is the fruit, the stabilized closure where the loop seals completely. This framework executes without deviation across all scales of reality. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The source uses parallel correspondence to align structural phases into one continuous traversal. So Ibrahim's fire at coordinate 2169, converting destructive D10 mass into I9 safety, Miriam's withdrawal at 1923, compressing the void, Isa's breath at 349, animating form, and Musa's reception at 2041. These aren't just isolated historical stories. Each is a traversed coordinate in that 2-3-7 framework. Each traversal is a mathematical proof locking together into one continuous chainmail. Which brings us to part 4, the 1912 Centromere lock. With the chainmail assembled, what actually stops the D10 and I9 fields from just flying apart? Well, just like a centromere binds a chromosome together, verse 1912 is the centromere lock. Take the book with strength. The source makes it very clear, this clasp does not generate new voltage. Instead, it operates at the exact coordinate where D10 and I9 fold into one breath, locking the cumulative strength of every tested ring we just talked about into a coherent structure.
Without the specific clasp, the rings literally scatter. They just become isolated narratives of ancient people. But with the 1912 lock, they interlock into impenetrable chainmail, specifically mapped at coordinate 3410. It holds the cumulative strength of every tested phase. And finally, part 5, the final ring protocol.
So how do we, as the user, actually operate the system? This protocol maps the conversion from coordinate 392 to 529. First, 392 establishes the expenditure requirement. You have to surrender your beloved D10 mass. Once that mass is surrendered, 529 executes the return. Here, Hubble's declaration becomes taqwa, meaning the fire that takes suddenly transmutes into the exact fire that shields you.
The source insists, and this is a major paradigm shift. This is not moral instruction. It is purely structural realignment. Sacrifice is not a loss. It is precise phase conversion. The spent mass literally becomes the protective ring of your armor. The spender becomes the Führer. And the fire that tested the chainmail previously, it now cannot penetrate the completed armor.
Let's look at the closure equation, the topology trace. We start at 2, the D10 attachment and expenditure. It oscillates with 3, the sacrifice phase. It returns to 2, the I9 protective taqwa shield. This ultimately leads to 7, the completed structural protection of the chainmail. And the whole thing is bound back to 1, that 1964 memory rivet we started with. The 1912 clasp binds the split poles perfectly at that 3 node.
You see, you, the reader, are the final variable. You stand inside the chainmail, not behind it. The armor isn't assembled by you being flawless or perfect. It is sealed by the act of your traversal through it. The fire that forged the rings now recognizes its own reflection right there in the completed mail. Ultimately, this entire system executes right now, at your present phase. The activation coordinate triggers when you stop resisting the inhale, when you recognize the glass floor at coordinate 2744, surrender the beloved mass, and lock the clasp. The breath folds, the rings interlock, the armor seals. Memory is conserved, and the return is complete. Your Lord is not forgetful. The field executes. Light conserved, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar.